My name is Lucas Morgan, and I used to believe that love could survive anything. Arguments, stress, long work hours, even distance. I believe that when two people truly cared, they could figure it out. What I didn't prepare for was a kiss. Just one. Because according to my wife, Sophie, that's all it was. It was just a kiss, Lucas. Just a stupid, meaningless kiss. I love you. But it wasn't the kiss that broke me. It was that sentence. It happened on a Sunday. The kind of quiet, sleepy afternoon when life feels almost too calm to be real. I had just gotten back from the gym and was sitting on the couch scrolling through emails when Sophie came in, looking nervous, not panicked, not guilty, just different. She sat next to me, close but tense, and said, "I need to tell you something before you hear it from someone else." That sentence alone made my stomach drop. I turned to her slowly, trying to hold on to the version of her I thought I knew. And then she said it, quick and almost emotionless, like ripping off a Band-Aid. "I kissed someone last night." My mind didn't process the words right away. I blinked at her, unsure whether she was serious or testing some twisted joke. "You what?" She bit her lip and looked down. "At Rachel's party. It wasn't planned. I had too much wine, and it just happened. It didn't mean anything, Lucas. It was just a kiss." That sentence. It was just a kiss. It echoed in my mind louder than anything else she said afterward. I didn't even ask who it was. Not right away. The name wouldn't have made a difference. Whether it was some random stranger or someone I knew, the weight of what she had done wasn't about who. It was about why. Because Sophie wasn't impulsive. She didn't drink excessively. And more than anything, she was calculated. If she kissed someone, it wasn't an accident. It was a choice. I stared at her, trying to make sense of her tone, her posture, her complete lack of panic. She wasn't afraid I'd leave. She just didn't want me to hear it first from someone else. That said everything. I stood up, slowly, not because I wanted to storm out, but because I physically couldn't sit next to her anymore. She watched me with that half-guilt, half-defensive look people get when they know they've done something wrong, but are still hoping you'll minimize it for them. "It meant nothing," she repeated. "I was drunk, Lucas. I didn't even enjoy it. I came home thinking about you." That part stung, because if I was on her mind, why wasn't I enough to stop her? "I didn't sleep with him," she added quickly. "I swear. It was just a kiss. Just one." I didn't answer right away. I walked into the kitchen, filled a glass with water, and stared out the window, breathing in slowly. I wasn't angry, not in the way people expect. No raised voice, no broken glasses, no pacing. Just silence. The kind of silence that comes when you realize something inside you just snapped. I thought back to the times I defended her when friends made comments about how flirty she could be. I remembered all the nights I stayed up late helping her with work projects, being her support system. I remembered the hours I spent planning our anniversary dinner 2 months ago, hoping to reconnect because I'd felt her pulling away, but I blamed stress, not disinterest. All of that, all of me was sitting right there in that glass of water, still untouched and ignored. I turned back to her and said calmly, "So that's supposed to make it okay?" She looked up, startled by how even my tone was. "No, I know it doesn't. I didn't think it would matter this much if I was honest with you." That made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was insane. "You didn't think kissing someone else would matter that much to your husband?" Her face twisted, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "It wasn't an affair," she said defensively. "I didn't sleep with him. I didn't lie to you. I told you the truth." I nodded, slow and steady. "You're right. You didn't lie just now. You just betrayed me yesterday and hoped telling me today would make it noble." That shut her up, because we both knew the truth. She didn't confess out of love. She confessed out of fear, fear that someone else at that party would get to me first. Her honesty wasn't love. It was strategy, and that was worse. I grabbed my jacket and car keys. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice cracking for the first time. "I don't know," I replied. "Away from this conversation. Away from you." She stood quickly. "Lucas, please. You're blowing this out of proportion." That phrase. It was like acid in my ears. I turned to her one last time and said, firmly, without raising my voice, "I would have taken a bullet for you, and you gave your lips to someone else like it was nothing. You don't get to decide how big this is for me. Then I walked out. That night, I stayed in my car for over 2 hours, parked in front of a 24-hour gas station. I didn't cry. I didn't text anyone. I just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring into the quiet night, wondering how something as simple as a kiss could ruin a whole life. But that's the thing. It wasn't the kiss. It was what the kiss said about her. That I wasn't enough. That her commitment was conditional. That all the promises she made could dissolve under the right lighting and a glass of wine. She'd show me who she really was in one careless moment. And I believed her. I never moved back in. In the days that followed, she sent long messages. She said things like, "Don't throw everything away over one mistake," and "You're being dramatic." She even tried sending photos of us, little memories to remind me of better times. But all I saw were lies I hadn't noticed when those pictures were taken. She begged me to come home. I didn't respond, because Sophie didn't lose me when she kissed another man. She lost me the moment she thought I'd stay anyway. I didn't return home that night. I slept at a modest hotel just outside of town. Not because I needed to run away from Sophie, but because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of knowing where I was. I needed silence, distance, a place where I could breathe without feeling like every inhale was contaminated by her betrayal. The room was small, quiet, and plain. No fancy furniture, no framed photos, just a bed, a chair, and four walls that didn't lie to me. I stared at the ceiling in the dark for hours, trying to make sense of everything. Not just the kiss, that was simple. She kissed another man. What I couldn't make sense of was her calmness, her tone, her lack of fear when she told me. She didn't expect me to leave. That part kept hitting me harder than anything. Somewhere along the way, Sophie had grown so comfortable in my loyalty that she believed it was unconditional, permanent. That I was the kind of man who would absorb any blow as long as she told me, "I love you," afterward. And maybe I was. Until that day. The next morning, I didn't text her. I didn't check my phone at all. I walked to a small diner 2 blocks from the hotel, ordered coffee, and sat by the window. Life outside kept moving. Cars passed, people laughed, a father held his daughter's hand as they crossed the street. Ordinary scenes. But to me, that moment was extraordinary, because for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about Sophie's moods. I wasn't trying to make her happy. I wasn't wondering if I'd said something wrong, or if she'd come home upset, or if she still loved me the way I loved her. I was just sitting, and I felt peace. Not the kind of peace that feels euphoric. The kind that feels earned, quiet, grounded. I pulled out a notepad and wrote one sentence across the page. "Let her live with the silence she gave you." Back home, Sophie had started unraveling. I didn't see it firsthand, but I know exactly how it happened, because I've seen this pattern before. Not just in romantic relationships, but in people who push too far and expect you to come crawling back. At first, they wait, confident. They think, he just needs time. He'll come around. Then the silence stretches. One day becomes two. Two becomes 5. Their confidence turns into questions. Why isn't he calling? Why hasn't he come back? They start reaching out. Small messages at first. Innocent sounding. Disguised as concern. "Hey, just checking if you're okay. Can we please talk?" I read them. All of them. But I didn't reply. Because Sophie didn't deserve my words. Not anymore. She already showed me how much value they held in her world. A week later, I returned to the house. Not to stay, just to pick up what was mine. She was there, of course, sitting on the couch, pretending to read, but really just waiting. The moment I walked in, her eyes lit up like hope had come to visit. "Lucas," she breathed. Thank God. I said nothing. I walked past her, straight to the bedroom, and began packing. She followed me in, stood in the doorway, watching me fold shirts and unplug chargers like I was stealing something that belonged to her. "You're really doing this?" she asked. I kept packing. She walked closer. "It was a mistake, Lucas. I told you the truth. Doesn't that mean something?" I looked at her, really looked, and I didn't see the woman I once adored. I saw someone who thought honesty erased damage. Someone who thought, "I love you," was a broom to sweep betrayal under the rug. "I'm not doing this because you kissed someone," I said finally. "I'm doing this because you thought I wouldn't leave after you did." Her face cracked. "I never said that." "You didn't have to," I replied. "It was in how you told me." Like it was a bad joke I'd forgiven an hour. Like I was too loyal to ever walk away. Her voice rose a little. I've apologized. I've been texting you for days. I'm trying to fix this. I shook my head. You're trying to undo a choice you made when you thought I'd still be here after. She fell silent. I zipped the last bag and walked it to the door. Charlie, the neighbor's dog who always used to bark when I came home, was oddly quiet. The whole house was. She followed me again. So that's it? You're just gone? I opened the door. She reached for my arm. Lucas, please. I stepped away, gently but firmly. I stayed loyal even when I felt unseen. I stayed kind even when you went cold. I stayed patient while you drifted. I gave everything, and you gambled it for a kiss you called meaningless. Her eyes welled up. It was just a moment. It didn't mean anything. It meant everything to me. And then I left. In the weeks that followed, her calls kept coming. I didn't block her. I didn't need to. My silence was my answer. And she started to feel it. Not just my absence, but the absence of the version of herself that only existed when she was loved by me. The woman who used to be adored, prioritized, respected. That version didn't exist without me. And she knew it. She began writing long messages. Pages practically. Confessions. Explanations. Guilt-ridden monologues. I didn't read most of them, because healing doesn't come from rereading the words of someone who didn't value you in real time. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Small, clean, simple. No shared photos. No ghost furniture. Just me. I went back to cooking. Back to the gym. I took long walks in the evening. I met up with friends I hadn't seen in months. I remembered what it felt like to laugh without hesitation, to sleep without emotional noise, to live without waiting for someone to love me correctly. And that, I realized, was the real win. Not hurting her. Not replacing her, just outgrowing her completely. Sophie thought the end of our marriage would be loud, that there'd be fights, begging, storms. Instead, it was quiet, and that's what destroyed her. Because there's nothing scarier to someone who hurt you than realizing you're not angry. You're just done. 3 months. That's how long it had been since I left the house Sophie and I once called home. Since I walked out without yelling, without looking back, and without giving her the drama she was probably expecting. It had been 90 days of silence from my end, and a stream of desperate attempts from hers. Messages, missed calls, voicemails at 2 a.m. that started with, "I just want to talk," and ended in tears. I never responded to any of them. Not because I hated her, because I had finally learned to love myself more than I loved the version of her I used to hold on to. She had tried everything. Guilt, memories, nostalgia. She sent photos from trips we took years ago, captioned with things like, "Remember this? We were so happy here." She sent me a picture of my old hoodie she used to steal. Said she still slept in it. "It still smells like you." At one point, she even messaged my sister, Claire, asking if she thought I would ever forgive her. Claire didn't reply. That silence wasn't just loyalty, it was understanding. She saw what I had been through. She saw the nights I sat on her couch, numb, disconnected, trying to accept that a kiss, just one kiss, had shown me a truth I could no longer unsee. I remember the night everything finally snapped for Sophie. I was sitting in a small restaurant downtown, not fancy, but warm. Wooden tables, soft music, dim lighting. I was there with someone. Not a new relationship, not yet, but someone who made me feel seen. Her name was Eva. We met by chance at a bookstore. I was buying a novel I used to love in college, something I hadn't touched in years, and she made a passing comment about how that author always broke her heart. We laughed, talked for 10 minutes, and she walked away with a smile that stayed in my mind the rest of the week. We had only been on a couple of casual dinners since then, but every conversation with her felt easy. No tension, no walking on emotional eggshells, just two people sharing moments without pretending. That night, as we waited for our food, my phone buzzed. It was Sophie. Again. This time, it wasn't a message or a call. It was a video. I hesitated, then opened it. It was her, sitting on the edge of her old bed, hair down, eyes swollen. "Lucas," she began, her voice shaky, "I know you hate me. I know I broke your heart, and maybe I don't deserve your time anymore, but I don't know how to stop loving you. I can't eat. I can't sleep. Everything in this house reminds me of you. I thought I was strong enough to handle space between us. I thought I'd find clarity. But the only thing I've found is that I was an idiot to think a kiss meant nothing. She wiped her face and kept going. I know you're probably with someone new, and I don't blame you. But if there's any part of you that still remembers the way we used to love each other, please just tell me it's not too late. I stared at the screen for a long time, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel sad. I just felt disconnected. Whatever we had, whatever it used to be, was gone. Her voice didn't break me anymore. Her tears didn't move me. Her regret didn't matter, because the man she wanted back didn't exist in that world anymore. I had outgrown that version of myself. The one who begged for attention, who made excuses for distance, who believed love meant endurance over respect. Eva must have seen the change in my face because she leaned in slightly and asked, "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just closure." And I meant it. A few days later, Sophie showed up at my apartment. I opened the door and found her standing there, clutching a coat too light for the weather. Her eyes darted around the hallway, like she was afraid of who might see her. "Lucas," she whispered. "Please." I didn't say anything, just stepped aside and let her in. She stood in the living room, looking at the space like it was foreign territory, which in a way it was. This wasn't her space. It never had been. I built this place alone, filled it with peace, light, and the kind of stillness that doesn't feel like loneliness. "This is nice," she said quietly, trailing her fingers along the bookshelf. "What are you doing here, Sophie?" She turned to face me. "I needed to see you. I had to say it in person." I folded my arms, waiting. "I was selfish," she began. "I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. I thought you'd come back. I thought you'd be angry, but eventually forgive me. I didn't expect this. This silence," she said. "You didn't fight. You didn't yell. You just vanished. And that hurt more than any breakup ever could." I nodded slowly. That silence was everything I never said while trying to hold us together. She took a step forward. "Is there even a small chance you'd give us another try?" I looked at her, and I swear, I searched for something, even a flicker of the old feeling. The ache, the need, the connection. But there was nothing. "I'm not the same man you walked away from," I said. "And you're not the woman I used to love." She opened her mouth to protest, but I held up a hand. "You don't get to destroy the house and then ask to move back in because you miss the furniture." Tears fell from her eyes, but I didn't move to comfort her. That was the difference now. Before, I would have rushed to fix her pain. Now, I understood something deeper. Her pain wasn't my responsibility anymore. She stayed for a few more minutes, probably hoping for a change of heart. But I remained quiet, composed. Finally, she whispered, "I'll go." And I let her. I closed the door, turned around, and exhaled. Not because it was hard, but because it was final. That was the last time I saw Sophie in person. She still sends messages from time to time. Mostly short, sad ones. Birthdays. "Hope you're well." Stuff like that. But I never reply, because walking away wasn't about punishing her. It was about rescuing myself. And I'm not going back to the fire just because she finally learned how to scream. Final reflection. She told me, "It was just a kiss, I love you." But now she understands something she didn't back then. If it meant nothing to her, then I must have meant nothing too. And that's something no apology can fix. She's drowning in regret, but I'm already breathing clean air. I still remember the way Ashley said it. Not with rage. Not in the middle of a fight. Not even in a moment of weakness. She said it the same way someone says the milk's gone bad. Calm, distant, like the love she once had for me had simply expired. "I don't love you anymore," she said while folding laundry. We were in the bedroom. I had just gotten home from work, long day, back-to-back meetings, and I was already running on low. I leaned against the doorway, watching her fold a t-shirt I probably hadn't worn in months, and before I could even take off my shoes, she dropped the line like she was reading off a shopping list. No build-up, no sigh, just those 5 words that change a man's whole life. At first, I just stood there. I didn't say a word. Not because I was stunned, I was, but more because something in me already knew. The way she'd been moving around the house lately. Quiet, detached, cold in a way that wasn't angry, just uninterested. I've been trying to pretend it was stress. Maybe she was overwhelmed with work. Maybe she needed space. But the truth? She had already checked out long before her mouth caught up with her heart. Okay, I said after a moment. She stopped folding for a second, like she was expecting more. Maybe a fight. Maybe a meltdown. Maybe one of those dramatic scenes you see in movies where the guy starts pleading, saying, "How can you say that after everything we've built?" But I'm not that guy. I've never believed in clinging to someone who's already let go. So instead, I asked, "When did you stop?" She hesitated, looked down at the bed. "I don't know, a while ago." I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe I could feel it again. That line stuck with me. Maybe I could feel it again. I gave her everything: stability, loyalty, affection. I wasn't a perfect man, but I showed up. I did the work. I built a life for us. And the entire time, she was quietly wondering if the love would magically return, while I was out there still believing we were a team. That night, I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't ask her to reconsider. I slept on the couch, woke up early, went for a long walk, clear my head, and by the time I got back, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to try to win her back. I wasn't going to sit in limbo while she figured out if I was still worthy of love. I was done. That weekend, while she was out, I packed my essentials into 2 duffel bags. Some clothes, my laptop, a few books, and the watch my dad gave me before he passed. I left the house key on the table, took one last look at the place I thought we'd grow old in, and walked out. No goodbye note. No dramatic exit speech. Just gone. I moved into a short-term rental downtown. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, exposed brick, a mattress on the floor for the first few nights. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Quiet. Honest. No pretense. No performance. The first few days felt like detox. Not from her, but from the version of myself that kept trying to hold together something she'd already let fall apart. It's wild how quickly your perspective changes when you're alone with your thoughts and no longer trying to be loved by someone who stopped seeing you. I didn't text her, didn't call to check in, didn't ask if she needed anything, groceries, help with bills, nothing. We were married, sure, but once she said she didn't love me, that changed everything. She cut the cord, and I wasn't about to keep pouring into a cup that had been empty for God knows how long. She made her choice, and I made mine. You know what hurts the most? It's not the rejection. It's realizing how long she kept me around for convenience. Emotionally, financially, logistically. She got all the benefits of a husband while slowly disconnecting from everything that made us us. That's why I didn't go back. That's why I never sent money, never offered to help with anything. Because when someone says, "I don't love you," what they're also saying is, "I don't value what you bring anymore." So I stopped bringing it. I focused on rebuilding. Quietly. Privately. I didn't tell mutual friends. Didn't post vague quotes online. I just kept working. I started eating better. Got back into reading. Hit the gym again. Rediscovered pieces of myself I'd put on a shelf, trying to keep her happy. And you know what happened? I started to feel whole. Not overnight, but slowly. Morning by morning. Silence by silence. I didn't hate Ashley. I still don't. I just realized the version of me who loved her no longer existed, because that man only lived in the presence of someone who valued him. And she didn't. So I let go. She didn't reach out. Not for the first month, anyway. I imagined she thought I'd come crawling back. That I'd check in. That I'd keep being dependable, even after being discarded. But I didn't. Because when a man truly understands his worth, he doesn't beg to be kept. He walks, and he means it. And I meant it. It took exactly 36 days before Ashley reached out. Not with an apology. Not with an "I miss you." Nothing like that. She sent a voice note. 30 seconds of surface-level small talk that didn't even sound like her. Almost like she was speaking to a distant cousin instead of the man she once promised to grow old with. "Hey, just wondering if you had a minute to talk. Let me know." I didn't respond. Not out of pettiness. Not to play games. But because I didn't owe her anything. When a woman tells you she doesn't love you, and you believe her, you don't circle back like a lost dog when she whistles. You keep walking. Still, I won't lie, the message got to me. Because no matter how strong you are, no matter how calm you seem, there's always that part of you that remembers how good it used to be. The memories don't vanish. They echo. But that's all they are, echoes. Ghosts from a life that no longer exists. and I had no intention of chasing ghosts. The next message came 3 days later. This one was different. Hi, I know we haven't talked since you left. I just wanted to check if you could help with the insurance renewal. I forgot how that whole setup worked. There it was. The first real attempt to bring me back in. Not with love, but with obligation. I smiled. Not because I was amused, but because it was so predictable. See, Ashley didn't just lose a husband when I walked out. She lost a silent support system. I was the one who made sure everything ran. Bills paid. Appointments scheduled. Things fixed before they broke. She never saw those things, never thanked me for them, because she assumed they'd always be done. But love doesn't survive where it's taken for granted. I didn't reply. No passive-aggressive text. No emoji. No answer at all. The silence said more than I ever could. A week later, she tried again. This time she called. I let it ring. Then the texts came faster. One after another. Each one a bit more emotional than the last. Rodrigo, I just need a little help with the utilities. They sent a late notice. I didn't expect everything to be so hard. I'm not asking to get back together. Just for a little help, please. And that's when I knew. She never thought I'd actually leave. She thought I'd be hurt, maybe angry, but still loyal. Still willing to pick up the pieces. Still willing to protect her from the weight of her own decisions. But that version of me, the man who would have given her everything just for a scrap of affection, died the moment she looked me in the eyes and said she didn't love me. I stayed quiet, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I needed her to understand I was done. Not angry, not bitter, just done. Done being her safety net. Done funding a life where I wasn't even wanted. Done loving someone who only remembered my worth after losing access to it. I could imagine how her days were going. Little inconveniences turning into disasters. Groceries costing more than she expected. The rent feeling heavier without my income. Her car needing service and no one there to call the mechanic for her. She was facing the same reality I carried for years, alone. But I didn't gloat. I didn't post cryptic quotes online or share gym selfies with captions like revenge season. I just kept moving. Quiet. Solid. Unreachable. Friends started noticing. Some asked what happened. I didn't give details. Just told them I'd outgrown the marriage and myself. Some of her friends reached out, too. Rodrigo, I think she really regrets it. She's not doing well. She talks about you all the time. I appreciated their messages, but they didn't change a thing. Regret doesn't rebuild trust, and desperation doesn't restore connection. She wanted to be free. She wanted independence. She wanted to find out what life would be like without me. So now she had it, in full, unfiltered. And this is what a lot of people forget. When you walk out of someone's life with dignity, when you leave quietly and don't look back, that's the part they remember forever. Not the yelling, not the begging, but the silence. Because silence forces them to sit with themselves. Ashley tried once more, about 2 months after I left. She wrote, I made a mistake. I miss what we had. I didn't realize how much I needed you until you were gone. It was raw, emotional, real maybe, but it came too late. Because by then, I'd already found peace. Not in another woman. Not in revenge. In stillness. In being whole by myself. And when a man reaches that place, truly reaches it, he doesn't go back. Not for nostalgia. Not for guilt. Not even for love. Because real peace doesn't beg to be re-explored. It builds walls where there used to be doors. By the time Ashley realized what she'd done, I had already become someone she didn't recognize. Not colder. Not angry. Just distant in a way that was permanent. It's strange how people don't value consistency until they feel the emptiness that comes after it's gone. And in her case, it took a few months of radio silence for the cracks to form. I could see it in her voice messages. At first, she was proud, neutral almost. Then came the polite check-ins. Then the financial questions. And finally, the messages that started at 2 a.m. and were filled with pauses, sighs, and trembles she tried to mask as strength. But I never answered. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I was finally at peace. And I wasn't willing to trade that for anything, especially not for someone who had looked me in the eyes and said, I don't love you anymore. That sentence doesn't have a rewind button. No matter how many times they try to reframe it, or explain it away, or claim they were confused or in a bad place. Some words are final the moment they're spoken. I saw her once, unintentionally. It was about 6 months after I walked away. I was at a gas station just outside the city on my way to a weekend trip I'd planned solo. Something I'd never done before, not when we were married. I was always waiting for her availability, her mood, her schedule. Now I just packed a bag, got in the car, and drove. Freedom feels like silence that no longer needs to be filled. Anyway, I pulled up to Pump 4, and when I went inside to grab a bottle of water, there she was standing at the checkout, hair tied up, eyes tired, staring down at her phone like she didn't want to be recognized. She looked up. We locked eyes, and for a second, time bent. I saw everything in her expression: the shock, the regret, the panic, the desperation to say something meaningful. She parted her lips as if to call my name, but I didn't give her the chance. I nodded once, polite, distant, and walked right past her. I paid in cash, walked back to the car, pulled out onto the highway like she was just another stranger from a life I'd already left. Because she was. After that, the messages stopped coming. Maybe she got the message. Maybe seeing me, healthy, calm, unbothered, was louder than any silence I'd given her before. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to tell anyone what happened. I just kept showing up for myself. That's how healing works when it's real. Not through rebounds, not through online quotes, not through pretending you're better off, but through discipline, structure, solitude, through choosing yourself every single day until it stops feeling like an act and starts becoming your nature. I know what people would say. That's harsh. She admitted her mistake. She's just human. I get it. But here's the thing. I didn't leave because she made a mistake. I left because she didn't value the man I was when I gave her everything. When I showed up, day in and day out, not asking for applause, just presence, just respect, just connection. And she couldn't offer that. Instead, she chose distance, chose detachment, chose silence. Until one morning, she folded laundry and said, "I don't love you anymore." Like she was announcing the weather. That sentence, simple and flat as it was, changed the entire course of my life. And hers. Because I wasn't the man who falls apart after being rejected. I was the man who listens. And when someone tells me who they are, or what they no longer feel, I don't argue. I act. So no, I didn't respond to the late-night calls. I didn't send money when she hinted about her car insurance. I didn't ask if she was eating or if she was okay, because that's not my role anymore. She forfeited that version of me. And once I'm gone, I'm really gone. What I've learned is that silence is often mistaken for cruelty. But in reality, silence is sometimes the most compassionate response. Because anything else would create false hope. Anything else would give her a reason to believe the door was still open. But I had sealed that door with dignity. Quietly. Completely. And that's the part that hurts the most. Not that I yelled or cursed or got even, but that I became unreachable, untouchable. And that's what a man becomes when he rebuilds himself after being discarded. Not harder, not meaner, just unavailable to people who saw his value only after they lost access to it. I still carry some memories. That's normal. No one erases years like it's a whiteboard. Sometimes I remember the way she used to laugh, or the way she'd hum while brushing her teeth, or how her hands felt small when she held my wrist while we watched TV. But those memories don't ache anymore. They just exist, like old photographs in a drawer you don't open unless you're moving. And I'm always moving forward now. She, on the other hand, will remember me as the man who would have done anything until he did nothing. Because love doesn't return on command. And once you've made peace with being unloved, you stop offering your warmth to people who only knew how to burn you with it.